play ball. Welcome to the podcast with no limits. Whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts, this is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Ursuma.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe. It is Monday morning, the final Monday of July 25th. I can't believe how the time has flown. August will be here next week. So hard to believe. We are into our 8th month of this crazy year, 2021. Not quite yet, but we will be there soon. So happy Monday to everyone out there. And I know not many people listen to the Monday morning podcast, but you know what? It's getting a little better. I still want to do it. I still want to talk about a few things. And, you know, as sports has kind of died down, except for the Olympics, of course, the Olympics is going on. That's always something that's semi-interesting. You go out to restaurants or, you know, you flip in the channel and you see different sports on that you maybe haven't ever seen before. You're like, oh, you almost forget, oh yeah, the Olympics are on. There's always something to watch, which is pretty cool, especially with the time change and everything. There's always something to watch. I know Bill Barnes isn't a big fan of the Olympics. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I do kind of, I don't know. I turn and see, hey, what's our medal count? What American team is playing right now, or maybe some other intriguing storylines. I'm curious, what are some of your guys' favorite Olympic sports? Send those to me, and I'll chat about that maybe next Monday. But I've always liked basketball, track, swimming, stuff, races, things of that nature, things that are like quick, very quick, that you don't have to invest a lot of time into. I liked baseball. I like seeing, I don't know what it is about international baseball, but I like it. I like seeing Team USA out there, and haven't watched any games. I don't even know if they played yet, but I did see some contests on TV yesterday, Sunday, when we were out and about. Had some good food with some friends, and plenty of other refreshments. So definitely in need of both coffee and a lot of water today. That's all I'll say. Anyway, good morning to everyone out there. It's a little rainy. Got a little drizzle here in sunny Southern California. A little June gloom here in late July, which is interesting. I do have a few topics today that I want to talk about. Just a few different things, really. I'm going to talk about, let's see, just in summary, my thoughts on Texas and Oklahoma possibly going to the SEC, what that means for the Big 12. I'll talk a little bit about Hard Knocks. That's coming up here, the NFL, the HBO television show in August, where it will follow this year the Dallas Cowboys up in Oxnard, California, for their practices and preseason things. The renaming of the Cleveland Indians, what I think of that, the whole NFL vaccination policy. There's a few things here to chat about, and while it's not all going to be sports, I do have some other things I want to talk about that aren't necessarily sports related. Just kind of sharing my opinions as always. We try to do sports here. We try our best, but you know what? Sometimes we got to talk about current events and get my opinions on things. And again, they're just my opinions. You don't have to agree with them, but this is an opportunity for me to speak my mind. Because, these days, if you post something, it could get censored or removed or whatever. So that's has always kind of been my way to talk literally into a microphone and get my opinions on Mondays about some things. That's why I always like getting topics from you guys, questions, things of that nature. Just I want to continue to make this very fan friendly and interactive with you guys. Another idea I had was to maybe go through my favorite sports teams, at least growing up, maybe yours. And who is your Mount Rushmore? Who is your Mount Rushmore of the San Francisco 49ers, of the Los Angeles Dodgers, of the Lakers, of the Rams, whoever you root for, maybe all your teams? Who are the 4 heads up there? Who are the 4 presidents that you would carve into a mountain for your specific fanhood? Not the greatest of all time necessarily, but who are your 4 favorite coaches, players, contributors to to that team. For me specifically, as an example, I would put Chick Hearn and Vin Scully in the Mount Rushmore of Dodgers and Lakers. That's just me. I think they have been there for so many people and contributed greatly to them, to their organizations, I should say. But like, for me, the Rams, I'm not going to do mine right now. I need to think about maybe at the end of the show if I come up with something, or if we're short on time or need to fill. But like the Rams, I would have Kurt Warner in there, probably Aaron Donald, Jack Youngblood, for as tough as I never saw him play. He was before my time. So it doesn't have to be somebody that you necessarily watched or saw it. Maybe you want to pay tribute to history, and things of that nature. Guys you never saw play, but they were studs. So not saying the greatest four players. It's just, who is your Mount Rushmore? Anyone can go, oh, these are the 4 or 5 greatest players. Like if I had to say the Lakers, I would say Magic Johnson, Jerry West. I don't know who to go for after that. I would say Kobe, but that's gonna be a popular one. But I'm like, okay, again, my type of players, right? I liked Mark Madsen. I liked oh man, one of my Kurt Rambis. I liked him. Who was another great Laker that I enjoyed. I liked guys like Robert Ory. Big Shot Rob, of course. He played with the Lakers quite some time. Rick Fox was cool. So there was Derek Fisher would be a tough one to pass up on for me. Again, my types of players, my Mount Rushmore, guys that anyone could say, oh yeah, it was great to watch Kobe Bryant drop 60 points or whatever, but it would give me an idea of who are your types of players, who are you. Anyone could say, okay, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and Steve Young. Sometimes it's going to be just the 4 greatest guys who played on a team or whatever. But I think it would be fun. Similarly to when you guys sent me in your favorite top 10 sports moments, as far as things you attended or games you watched, I think this could be fun and stimulate some conversation and such. So it is Monday. One thing I want to do today is do a Suds with Studs segment, and I want to do something different today. I've been talking specifically about military members, law enforcement. I talked about like United 93, the civilians on that flight on 9/11 who tried to retake the plane and died as heroes, crashing it into a field. So this is meant to pay tribute to those who've showed great courage and made sacrifices, and I don't know, just have been people that we can look up to. And so today I'm going to do something different. This person I'm going to discuss is not in the military, or was in the military. It was not somebody that was in law enforcement, but I think it's somebody that stood for America. He was an athlete who accomplished something truly amazing, but the way in which he achieved his greatness was very, very difficult, and not just difficult, but I don't know. He didn't get the gratitude, unfortunately, that I think he deserved. And I want to talk to you today in our Suds with Studs segment today, as we talk about heroes. We talk about people who have made a difference, and somebody that we would love to sit down and have a cold one with, and not just by the first round, but every single round. So today, our honoree in honor of the Olympics, I want to talk about Jesse Owens, the 4-time gold medalist at the 1936 Olympic Games that were in Berlin. And, this country, America, has had a not so pretty history when it comes to race relations, especially at that time. It spilled into the 50s and 60s as well. I would argue that it's way better than it was before. There's still pockets here and there. And I know racial justice and equality, that's a big topic of discussion in 2020 and 2021. But if you look back to Jesse Owens in 1936 and what he did, it was truly remarkable. Not just winning 4 gold medals, all right, not just being one of only, I think it was 18 black athletes for the United States in 1936, but he went into Nazi Germany 3 years before World War II started. Hitler and the Nazis had slowly built up to become the power that they would try to take over the world, right? And the Aryan supremacy and all this BS that cost people countless lives, murdered millions of people, and there was a great deal of loss of life in the Allied forces to defeat Hitler and the Nazis. Well, this was right before that all started in 1939 when Hitler invaded Poland to officially start World War II. Jesse Owens in the United States track team goes into Berlin. Nazi flags everywhere, Heil Hitler, and people knew what the Germans had kind of become, but they weren't like you think of it. There's no social media back then. I mean, everything you got was just looking through a newspaper. So it was kind of word of mouth what this empire was forming and trying to had plans to take over the world basically. But anyway, Jesse Owens, track athlete from Ohio State, goes into the Olympics in 1936, and as a black man, just kicks the Germans, kicks everyone's rear end, just dominates. And 4 gold medals, one in the 100, one in the 200, one in the long jump, and one in the 4x100. And what's interesting about his gold medal in the 200 meters is that 2 guys in that race set a world record. The person who finished second place, who got the silver medal, finished just behind Jesse Owens, who was also an American. And they both imagine breaking a world record and finishing second. That's crazy. And the person who finished second was none other than Matthew Mac Robinson, the older brother of the great Jackie Robinson. So Mac Robinson has had great contributions to the city of Pasadena, alongside his brother Jackie Robinson, of course, who they're both from that area. But man, that kind of gets lost in the story, really, is that Mac Robinson finishes second at the 36 Olympic Games in the 200 meters, probably the most famous or the best silver medal of all time, maybe, I would argue. And I don't know, maybe his name is something different down the road if there wasn't this guy named Jesse Owens there. So kind of an interesting part of history there to think about. But so Mac Robinson, man, tough break, man. Tough break. But hey, cheers to you and your second place silver. So Jesse Owens goes into Berlin and wins 4 gold medals. And I think, let's see here if he set some records. I do know that when he was in college, listen to this. This is before the Olympics, 1935, at the Big Ten track meet in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Jesse Owens set 3 world records and tied another, probably in these same events. I'm guessing maybe there was other events. 3 world records and tied another. So 4 world records basically in 45 minutes. It's a feat that has never been equaled and has been called the greatest 45 minutes in any sport. I saw that. I couldn't believe that. 4 world records basically in less than an hour. Unbelievable accomplishment for the likes of Jesse Owens. So he does that in college. A year later, he's in the Olympics, and he is competing in Nazi Germany in front of Hitler. And Hitler, the Nazis had this theory, this awful way of life where they envisioned this Aryan supremacy, right? And when Jesse Owens goes there and kicks their ass, it puts to bed at the time. It punches the Germans right in the mouth basically and says, "No, you're not superior. You're not a superior race." So Jesse Owens with his 4 gold medals. And what's amazing to me is that there's a great picture of Jesse. I posted it, and there was some dialogue, we'll say, with the comments. Someone commented and said, "Yeah, you got to tell the whole story, man," or something of that nature. But the picture that I posted, it shows Jesse Owens in the stadium on the medal stand. There's someone, I don't know what the third place guy was, maybe Japan. He was of Asian descent. He was standing there on the medal stand looking pretty upset. And I'm not sure which event this medal ceremony was for, but there's probably a second or third place guy on the medal stand as well. Clearly a German, because he's given a Hail Hitler, Heil Hitler, whatever the saying was. I try not to get caught up in that whole the evil side of things, which the Nazis were, and the whole stadium is doing the Heil Hitler. What do you call that? Motion salute. I don't like calling it a salute because Jesse Owens is giving an actual salute to the American flag, as the rest of the stadium is doing this Heil Hitler salute. So really think about that. Think about the athletes now who kneel because they're oppressed, apparently. Oh, Matt, well, they're doing it. They're making a statement for people that are oppressed, or talking about how horrible the country is, whatever. Meanwhile, you got a hero in Jesse Owens who is saluting the flag, saluting his country in the middle of the most evil setting you can probably think of. I mean, think about it. This would be like ISIS hosting an Olympics. I don't like making comparisons to the Nazis. I mean, I don't know. I can't even imagine this. You're in a stadium there, and the war atrocities had not been totally committed yet, but Hitler did some pretty evil things to gain power, to get to power, took out a lot of his own people, right? So what Jesse Owens did was just really remarkable. I mean, I don't know that I would have had the strength to go out there and compete, knowing that this stadium full of people probably truly hated you. Not just hated where you came from, but hated you because of your skin color, thought you didn't deserve. This wasn't thought that you didn't deserve to exist. This wasn't kicking you out of a store because of your color or skin. This was a regime that was beginning this process to exterminate those who did not look like them or were not like them. And it had to be scary to go in there and compete. So for courage and his bravery and his outright ballerness, we'll say, just going in there and dominating, 4 gold medals. Take that, Nazis. And then to salute the American flag while everyone else is doing the evil Heil Hitler thing. It really spoke to me when I saw that photo, and I was blown away by it, because I had heard the Jesse Owens story before. My mom told me as a kid, oh man, he goes in the Olympics were in Berlin, in Germany, and just explaining me the whole story. And I just couldn't believe it, man, when I saw that photo of him. And the write-up that I posted along with it was basically talking about spoiled athletes now. I mean, what's crazy about the Jesse Owens story now, kind of the bad part of it, is he goes home. There was other things that happened in this and that, but he goes home and he didn't get the recognition he deserved. He still had to ride in the back of the bus. He had tough time finding work. He was working as like a gas station attendant a lot of his life. And because of the color of his skin, when he came back to America, he wasn't celebrated as he should have been. And that is truly unacceptable. And it was a different time. It was not 2021. All right. And it's not excusing the way in which he was treated. That's how it was, I guess, back then. I think it's a very unfortunate time in our history that at one time people were looked down upon and mistreated and had separate places to eat, to use the restroom, separate water fountains, all those things. Absolutely awful. And I'm glad we no longer live that way. We now live in this age where, all men are created equal, which is great to finally live by, instead of having segregation and things like that. So America did not celebrate Jesse Owens as it should have. But his legacy, what he accomplished, how he accomplished it, uh, is absolutely celebrated and honored. And I encourage you guys, go read up on Jesse Owens and his legacy. He was a heavy smoker, so he died pretty young, and I think 66 years old. But one of the best track athletes, best Olympians, best American athletes for doing what he did. I'd be curious what he had to say about some of the kneeling and stuff that goes on these days. Maybe he'd be for it. I don't know. Because originally I think he was against the two Olympians. Who are they? John Carlos, I forget their names, where they did he was originally against their demonstration in the Olympics on the medal stand. But then he went the other way. He changed his mind just because he saw the American way of life was not getting better as far as race relations go and this and that. So, but I applaud Jesse Owens for dominating at the Olympics in 1936 and just taking it to the Nazis and saluting our American flag. He loved a country that was not loving him. Now we have athletes that hate a country that loves them. Their oppression, Jesse Owens' oppression, was coming home and having to forced to ride in the back of the bus or take a separate entrance to a restaurant. Today, the oppression of athletes is going home to their mansions and their $30 million a year contracts. So think about how far we've come and where we're at. It's not perfect. There's still improvements to be made. But I think it was troubling to see that Jesse Owens did not get the credit he deserved. This was the final Olympics, because remember, right after this, World War II started in 1939. There were no Olympics in 1940, 1944, canceled altogether. So the Olympics didn't come back until 1948. And this was a pretty significant moment in American history and Olympics history, Jesse Owens. So to Jesse Owens, I salute you, sir. I know you've been gone a long time, but I salute you for your service to America in a very, very hostile environment. We'll say it wasn't war, but what you did in your competition, your greatness, 4 gold medals in 1936 in front of the Nazi party. Pretty crazy. I know he came home. He didn't get to shake the president's hand of the United States. Things like that happen, and it was just so unfortunate. And I hope that his legacy has gone the other way. That it has achieved gold status, for lack of a better term, no pun intended, because one of the greatest athletes of all time, especially in track and field. So to Mr. Jesse Owens, you are someone I would love to sit down and have a cold one with, not just by the first round, but every single round, sir. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that today, just kind of get those words off my chest about the legacy of Mr. Jesse Owens and his contribution to the United States of America. If you have thoughts, please send them my way. Again, I don't know the whole story, and I do know that he did not get the credit he clearly deserved for his achievement. So anyway, that is that. Okay. And next week, we'll have another edition of Suds with Studs, where I have a long list going here of people, but I always encourage you guys to read up on these guys and also send me some names, some stories if you should have some. Suds with Studs, I like to do it. It's just kind of, I think it brings it all together. It puts things in perspective for all of us. Okay, where do I go from here? What do I want to touch on first? I posted something else on Facebook. It showed 2 people from the early 1900s wearing like masks or whatever. And I got some good comments on that. But it was basically, imagine being born in 1900, having to go through the Spanish flu, then going through World War I, then going, through the Depression, then going World War II. Maybe you didn't fight in both, but in both of those huge wars, but the wars still affected us at home. I mean, you probably knew someone that went over and fought and served. We had to put together, weapons and planes and all those things here back home. There was the war effort back home was a big deal. After World War II, the Korean War hits in the early 50s there. Then in your 60s, the Vietnam War is going on. Let's see, and ends when you're 75. So if you were born in 1900, you really did experience a lot of turmoil, a lot of hardships. You went through it all. Your entire life was chaos, really. But people born in 1985, people born in 1995, they don't understand what true hardship is. They didn't go through multiple world wars. See, sure, we've had wars the past 20 years or whatever, but nowhere near the extent of these global conflicts. I mean, if someone's phone isn't working, they throw a tantrum, right? I just think it goes without saying that we are a lot more soft than our grandparents were. And I think, you don't ever be the old man that says, kids these days, but we do live in a lot of comfort, man. We live in a lot of comfort. I know if it gets 85 degrees, I'm looking to turn the air conditioner on. I mean, we live in this comfort. We have access to everything at our fingertips, and still young people who don't know anything about adversity love to complain. I mean, I hope that puts things in perspective. If you haven't seen it, it's on my Facebook post. It's a long write-up. I don't want to read it right now, but it puts things in perspective for me, thinking about my grandparents and your grandparents, and just like, man, they went through a lot. We really haven't gone through that much. Anyway, let's see here. Okay, the renaming of the Cleveland Indians. This occurred last week. Everyone knew it was going to happen. They knew they were going to change the name. And they picked Guardians because it's something to do with the bridges over there, or a bridge. And I don't know exactly, but I know that's something to do with that. And it rolls off the tongue kind of like Indians. It has the same last, 4 letters or whatever. DA, 5 letters. But the Cleveland Guardians, I'm not even sure what the mascot is, but to change the team name, first of all, team names are to honor people. Why would you try to be represented? Why would you want something that is you're representing that? Hey, we're the Eagles, we're the Vikings, we're the whatever. Like, there's pride in a team name. You don't name yourself something that you're making fun of. So that's always been my stance as far as this outcry for the renaming of teams, because it's insensitive. And Matt, maybe you're just a jerk. What I don't care. I told you when the Redskins were renamed. It's when you rename a team, it doesn't take away their oh, okay, the last 40 years didn't happen. Okay, we already talked about some real awful oppression and things. And I'm not, maybe there is some Native Americans out there that are very offended by this. I haven't seen that many. There's a lot that are like, that's not a big deal. So for me, I'm going to continue to call them the Cleveland Indians. That's me. I did that with the Redskins the past couple of years. I think past year. I think a lot of people accidentally do that anyway. A lot of people still call the Chargers the San Diego Chargers and stuff like that. I don't know. To me, I can't look at that team out there. You can change the logo. You can put something different on the scoreboard, but that's the Cleveland Indians. I mean, how far do we take this? Do we go back? Do we go back now and take away two great sports movies, Major League and Major League 2, because it has some cultural insensitive scenes? TP talk, and they show the he calls the fans the tribe. The Cleveland Indians are the featured team. Do we go back and remove that movie from existence? I don't think so. I don't think it has the same concept. You're like, oh, the Cleveland Guardians. Yeah, let's do you. I just don't know where it ends, man. It's a movement for a reason. It's always moving. It never stops. And people will be on to the next controversy, I'm sure, here very soon. I'm just like, we must be out of problems. We are out of problems if we are making big deals of these things. Maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I don't get it. And that's fine. I don't need to get it. But renaming the Cleveland Indians, good for you. Way to go. Hey, just like that, problem solved. That fixed everything. There's huge murder rates in the city of Cleveland, but let's change the name of the baseball team. That is important. Very, very important stuff. Congratulations to the Cleveland Indians. Man, who knew? Who knew? Just changing something would fix everything. Could have done it years ago. Solved all kinds of problems. There will be pursuit of all team names now. And I say this, I said it jokingly before when I talked about the Redskins and the Indians. And it's like, well, where do you go? Do you rename the Vikings? Those are pretty awful guys. Pirates, we're not talking Pirates of the Caribbean here. Pirates were plunderers and pillagers and, quite evil dudes. This is always fun to play this game. What's another one? Another group of people. The Conquerors. Anyone who's a conqueror? Ooh, that's a bad one. Let's rename it. Cowboys. You know how many cowboys killed Indians? We got to change that one now. If you're going to eliminate Indians, I think it's only fair. What do kids call it these days now when you used to play Cowboys and Indians as a kid? Do they even say that anymore? Or is it like, hey, go play go play Cowboys and Native Americans culturally appropriate terminology. You can't say Cowboys. No. We're out of problems if these are the things we worry about. Go play Cowboys and Indians. That we used to do that all the time, and it was cool being both. It was cool. You could be an Indian. You have that spear, the bow and arrow. That was awesome. And then it was cool to have a cowboy hat and a 6-shooter. Those were fun also. Equal love to playing Cowboys and Indians. A lot of fun. So they were just games kids played back then. Now, God forbid, kids even have weapons when they play. Oh, that will turn them into something bad. I heard the podcast on Friday. I hope you guys enjoyed with Matt Brown. What a great storyteller. What his experiences. I hope you guys tune into his podcast. But he talked about being, I think it was 10, 12 years old, and his dad worked at Long Beach Airport, and he was him and his friend were given a golf cart and a BB gun and shoot birds off of planes, make sure they I thought that was hilarious. I go, there's no way that was a real job. And in today's world, the dad would be in jail and the kid would have to go to counseling or something for doing that. Anyway, Cleveland Indians, good grief. Okay, my buddy Fred sent me a text, and it was regarding the NFL. And this is something that's really gaining steam here with the whole vaccination process. The season is just over a month away. There'll be preseason games here soon. Hard Knocks will be going up in Oxnard, California. I've actually gone up there to kind of officiate some Dallas Cowboy practices before. Always fun. Always a good time to go up there and be around some of the best athletes in the world. But anyway, there was a comment. I saw a tweet by DeAndre Hopkins, the NFL wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. He said, "Never thought I would say this, but being put in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL." And, there's some truth to that. There's no requirement for players to take the vaccine. There are requirements for some top tier, I guess, coaches and assistant coaches and things like that in the I don't know how they term it, the different tiers. And so some coaches, there's even been some coaches who've lost their job. They're like, I'm not taking it. I'll resign. I mean, so this requirement, this vaccine requirements, it sounds like people are open if you want to demand everyone get vaccines, it sounds like people are open to people losing their jobs. I mean, we've seen that a lot this past year anyway, where people just don't care if people can't work or are fired from their job or lose everything. People don't care. They say they care, but they don't care. So DeAndre Hopkins and other NFL players are hesitant to take this thing because first of all, they have a right to. It's their choice, and they've heard about some friends or family who have kind of had side effects, and maybe we're not allowed to talk about that stuff, of course. But I thought the comment that Fred sent me from, I don't even know who this guy is, but the comment under the DeAndre Hopkins tweet, I thought said a lot. And the quote was, "What gets lost in the 99.6 survival rate for the NFL's entire age group? What gets lost? 99.6 survival rate for the NFL's entire age group. Think guys 20 to 35, probably, whatever. That's probably the standard age group." He goes, "How many players, coaches, executives, or fans died without a vaccine last year due to a game?" Thought it was an interesting question. Data, right? That's always interesting to formulate opinions and hopefully gather facts is data. And the argument, of course, is, well, it's not about them. They can pass it. They can spread it. And we've kind of been over this, like, okay, but those people who are concerned, are probably not going to public places, are probably not, who are probably already vaccinated. They probably even are extra cautious and wear masks. All right. People that aren't worried about it are just like, if I get it, I get it. They are making the choice to not be affected by it. So it's interesting that, yeah, with this super high survival rate, some NFL guys are very hesitant to put a vaccine in their body, put something in their body that they probably don't need because they're going to be fine. But you can't say that. That's like, I can't believe you would even think that, right? That's where we're at. And the NFL has said that players who are unvaccinated, they are going to be basically treated like second-class citizens. It's if a team is unavailable to play a game on time, they're not going to postpone games like they did last year and move games from Sunday to Wednesday, or the juggling of times and everything. They're not going to do that this year. Apparently, they want everyone vaccinated, and they're saying if you have vaccinated players who have issues with COVID, you won't be penalized like you will if players are unvaccinated and get COVID or have COVID issues. Then you could see a forfeit. And in a forfeit, players will lose a game check. So, and these NFL salaries are pretty high, right? They're divided game check wise by 17. And they get paid weekly depending on the size of their salary, size of their contract. What's Dak Prescott making? 40 million a year. What's 40 million divided by 17? That's his game check. So if a team has to forfeit, players are going to lose that money. So now they're putting pressure on other players and, shaming them basically into this thing. And I stand with the players on this. I see if a player doesn't want to get vaccinated, that's his right. I don't think they should be forced to do that. I don't know if the NFL is trying, they're trying to not lose money. Of course, it all comes down to money. They say it's about health, but it's about money. Make no mistake about it. So I am very curious over this upcoming season. The NFL continues to push people away, even guys like me, diehard guys who love my LA Rams, and I love watching NFL on Sundays and Mondays, and but they really are trying to push fans away, and they've done a good job of it, much like the NBA has. And it's hilarious to me how NBA fans or sports fans in general, they if they're kind of left leaning, they refuse to believe that NBA ratings are down because they got woke. They got woken up, in my opinion. They they put BLM all over the court. Everyone was kneeling, and the NFL was able to get away with some of their little uh, cosmetic theater, virtue signaling stuff they did during their season. They were able to kind of get away with it. But when you're not as popular as the NFL, and then you try to the NBA really was at the forefront of all this last year to tell people, that's my favorite. My favorite is let's unify everyone, but at the same time, we have to call everyone a name, basically label everybody as something, but let's unite. That is very unifying. So some people, or I should say the NFL, some leagues can survive more than others, but the NFL ratings, when they, during the Kaepernick thing, they went sideways. They dropped significantly, and then all that stopped. I don't know why. Maybe there was loss of money in advertising and like stuff like that. But I find it interesting. I mean, they're going to do the multiple national anthems apparently. And we're not talking American and like Canadian national anthem like we see in hockey and stuff. I'll let you guys look into that. I don't want to comment on that at this time. But the NFL continues to like try to push people. You have a great product. You have the most popular product. Why would you want to alienate fans? Why would you do things that will probably lose you some viewers and not gain you one? There's no one sitting around that is going to go, you know what? I've never watched the NFL before. I am going to tune in now that they are demanding that players get vaccinated. I will support that. People who don't watch the NFL aren't going to magically do that. However, there will be some people based off of some of these policies and other things that I won't even get into that they'll say, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. There will be a lot more of those people than gaining an audience. You'll lose a good portion of your audience when you constantly try to push causes down people's throat instead of doing, man, what a concept to just play football. What to do something that people actually tune in for. That would be amazing. I think there's channels, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Newsmax. There's all kinds of channels and places to go if you want politics. But if you want to watch a football game, I would think turning a football game on would be the way to do that. But apparently it's not. So I'm curious to see where the NFL ratings go this year. Some people will say, well, it can never be go down. Well, it did a few years ago, and then things changed. So this whole vaccine policy, this vaccine craze, whatever you want to call it, it does seem to be dividing us as Americans. It seems to be dividing us against each other, and I don't like it. I mean, it's you are labeled as a irresponsible, awful person if you have hesitancy in taking something. So if we've learned anything the past year, there is no place for multiple opinions. You will submit to the decrees from our overlords. You will. Do not question. There is no dissent. You will do what people tell you because it's in the name of safety. This is for you. It's better for you. I am deciding what is better for you, not you. You're not allowed to talk about you or care about you. I will. We will. This fascination with controlling people's lives, I will never understand. I have no interest in controlling someone's life. None. I don't understand like why people want to play puppeteers. That's just, I want to live my life. I do care about your life. Some of you, I care, but I'm honestly like, go do whatever interests you. And if we have common interests, cool, we can do it together. But like, I don't know, live your life. Why are you worried about other people's lives? Oh, as I mentioned, Hard Knocks is going on up in Oxnard. I always like that show because it kind of takes you behind the scenes. You see the interaction of the practices and Guys are mic'd up on the field, and you see the coaches and players getting released. Guys come on trying to make the roster. And 2 years ago was the Raiders. Thought that was really good. There was a lot of, Gruden was still new, and there was controversy with Antonio Brown. Last year, they tried to do this double thing with the Rams and the Chargers being in LA, moving into the new stadium and everything. I didn't think it worked. It wasn't as good as, for me as a Rams fan, as it was 4 years before when the Rams moved to LA, even though it was a terrible team. But it was cool watching that transition from a team moving from the Midwest back to its original roots. So I've always enjoyed Hard Knocks. It's once a week. It's like, I think it's August 12th. It's 4 weeks. I think it's only 4. Maybe it's 5. It's a 1-hour show Sunday nights at like 9. And it just follows the team for that week, their practices, their meetings. It's funny seeing coaches just chew players out. I mean, think about the NFL. There's this build up to the season, the kickoff in September. And, a lot of these guys playing these preseason games, only 3 preseason games this year. It's part of the agreement to go to 17 games. It's interesting. The whole thing's interesting. Anytime you can go behind the scenes and check out that stuff. So if you have HBO, this might be good to get it for just maybe this month, even subscribe to it, or however it works. I think HBO, Max, I think it's like $15 a month or something. Not a salesman by any means, but I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait. Upcoming, because again, July and August, they're kind of slow sports months. We do have the Olympics, and that's okay to tune into. But if it's diving or something, or fencing, I'm just like, I'm not that interested. So there may be non-sports related topics, and there might also just be some I don't know, some football talk, hopefully, as we build up to the season here. I'll take this commercial break. First of all, more coffee, almost gone. But I forgot to say this at the beginning of the show. One of the things I am considering is that I've been doing this show for over a year now. We're into our second season, and I really haven't taken a break from it by any means. I've brought something to you at least every week. I used to do it 5 days a week. That was during the lockdown when I was unemployed. Now I do it 3 days a week, and I like the structure. I get to say my opinions about things on Mondays. Bill Barnes, I bring in for entertainment on Wednesdays. He and I had a great debate last week, I thought, spirited, and all is well between us. Heck, he was part of the group that I met up with yesterday. I met up with Bill and Donna, me and Valerie and other friends. And, we're great. We're on good terms. Same as you guys will see on Wednesday. We're still best buds, and we didn't let a little arguing come between us. It was different to see on the show last week, arguing about the vaccine and everything. And I got some good feedback from everybody, from people on both sides of the aisle there, who feel one way or another. So that's what the podcast is about. And Friday, I hope you guys got to hear the long form interview with Matt Brown, the professional photographer and fellow podcaster. Just a lot of fun. One of my favorite interviews. It almost went 2 hours. We just couldn't stop talking. He was painting pictures for me and telling me great stories. So that's where the podcast has been, right? I've liked how it's developed. Suds with Studs, moving that from Friday to Mondays, because that kind of helps fill some time. And I know not everyone listens on Mondays because they're just like, I don't want to hear Matt just by himself. But for those that do, I greatly appreciate it, whether it's YouTube or Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. But I haven't taken a break from doing this, and I am proud of that. I'm proud that we've been able to throw together shows, or I shouldn't say we. Todd always makes fun of me for that. I haven't, but in the next couple of weeks here, I haven't fully decided. I have recorded a couple of interviews already, by the way. I'm going to have a friend on, Andy Angelo, this probably a week after next. This Friday, you guys, I haven't decided fully yet, but I think we're going to do it. I think I'm going to bring on Valerie Byrnes, my girlfriend. She hasn't been here since January 1st. So I wanted to have her on every few months, and I blink now, and it's been 8 months or 7 months since her last appearance. So it's always fun chatting with her to take you guys inside our relationship a little bit. This Wednesday, we'll mark her and I being together 5 years. Yes, 5 years. And I know a lot of you are thinking, hey, Matt, when are you, hey, we'll talk about that and other things on Friday with Valerie Byrnes. So I thought it would be fun to have her on as we kind of celebrate an anniversary, talk about maybe some of the hopeful changes in our life here upcoming, and just catch you guys up with her. And she can make fun of me, tell some stories about me, maybe that I don't talk about. And so it's fun having her on. So anticipate that for this Friday for our show as we start a new month, the last show of July 30th. Yes, 2 days after our celebration of getting together 5 years ago. So that's just some content coming up in the future. I've talked to him already, and I am going to do a recording with him probably this week. And I will probably release that in August, one of the August shows. Brandon Hayashi is the head football coach at Citrus College, recently promoted. So I hope I said his name right. I know him on Instagram, or I knew him from he's been on the Pro and Con podcast before. What is this? Cancel. Oh, I must have been. Interesting. Sorry. Just talking to myself here, but Brandon Hayashi, I think is his name. Anyway, he's going to be on, talk some football with him and his career coaching journey, really. And yeah, he's been on the Pro and Cod podcast with Zach Stiver and Javier Rodriguez and Chris Calderon. So that's where I heard him. And so I reached out to him, and he's going to be on the program here upcoming. But what I am thinking of doing, haven't decided fully, is maybe in August, maybe next week, maybe the week after. Again, I haven't decided. I might take a little break, maybe 1 week off, maybe 2 weeks, no more than 2 weeks, but I might take a breather, step back, kind of get ready for football season, if you will. And, I know you guys love this weekly thing, but I might need the break. We might also be making some changes here shortly with some other things that my mind might be elsewhere. So that's just a heads up. I don't know exactly when or, what the plan is, but it's something I'm thinking about. I love kind of the repetition of getting to jump into this seat every week and do a pod with you guys, whether it's Monday by myself or with my brother, Wednesday with Bill Barnes, and of course Friday talking to someone new. A lot of Carey Youth League, Rio Hondo Prep people, a lot of sports officials and things of that nature. But that is tentatively what is going to happen. I may take a week off, maybe 2 weeks, just to recharge the batteries, maybe still do some interviews and get them stockpiled and ready to go for when football season occurs. But there'll be a lot of things to talk about when September rolls around, college football kicking off and other things. So that's just a heads up and some content scheduling that is coming moving forward. I wanted to give you guys a heads up on. Okay, something I saw on Twitter. This was Will Kane posted this. He posted something regarding cop propaganda against the police, and it showed this guy in a car. And he's videoing this cop, and this cop walks over and he throws a baggie in the back seat of a car, and looked to be drugs, some type of substance or whatever. And the guy's like, "Hey, I got you on video. I just saw you do that." And the cop's like, "I got you on video too." Like it shows him with his body cam. And that was kind of the end of the video. Someone posted that, they ran with it. And what was so irresponsible is that it was specifically clipped to just show that. So there was no what would you call that? No content, you didn't know the whole story. It just looked like, oh my goodness, a cop is throwing drugs, planting evidence to make this guy look like he's, has drugs on him. But then there's a body cam video where it shows two cops searching another suspect. They pull the drugs off of the guy, someone who I think was in the car with this guy. He walks it over to the car where the guy's filming. He throws it in the back seat, and the guy's like, "Hey, what I just told you, the video I just shared with you. Hey, you just threw that in the car. That wasn't on me." And he goes, "I got you on video." And he goes, "I got you on video." So anyway, the long-winded story is the cop tells the guy, and you see this in the body cam video, "Yeah, we pulled that off of him. I don't want to hold. I can't be holding that." He says everything is on video. You can see it all. He says, "You're fine. We're not planting evidence on you. This was on him." But of course, the video was edited to fit an agenda. And so I'm wondering if there's going to be any apology made for whoever posted this video trying to stir up something. I mean, how many cities need to burn before we stop doing this type of crap? We're looking so hard. We're looking so hard for things like this. If you have to search that hard, if you have to create these moments out of thin air, then is it happening that often? I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm sure there's cops planting evidence. I'm sure it's happened before. I know that, and I'm sure there's probably some of that still going on. Not denying that. But to have to pretend something happened, doesn't that say that maybe it's not happening as much as you think? It's like I always say this about, like, we have to create issues, create false narratives. We have to create things that never happened and say that, well, they did. This guy was prejudiced to me. You do the whole story and it's like, oh, actually, no, they weren't. I'm not denying it doesn't happen, but I'm saying the rate at which it happens is probably not that much if we have to create it. And shame on the people who tried to make this into a story when in fact there was no story. It was just more propaganda against the police. If you want to see it, go to Twitter. Will Kane, who I've told you guys about, is fantastic. And he has a great podcast Mondays and Fridays. Listen to that. It'll make you smarter. And he tweets out some pretty great stuff too. And I thought that was very responsible of him, because who knows, we could have cities could have been burned and lives ruined based off of a false story that someone was trying to run with. That shows you how evil people are. If they're trying hard to paint a group of people, in this case the police, in a negative light, you're trying hard to make them to be these awful people when they're just doing their job, and maybe you don't understand all their tactics and everything. They're just doing their job, and you're trying to make them out to be monsters. I mean, when the shooting of Ma'Khia Bryant happened, and there were still people that, like, use of force is unacceptable, as she has a knife raised ready to stab somebody. I mean, that's where it's like, okay, we got to be on the same page of one of these instances. And again, I'm not denying brutality happens, and I'm just denying. I am saying the rate at which we are told that these things happen is false. I don't trust the media. There's people, they stare at their televisions and they just nod and yeah, oh yeah. There's no thinking anymore. And I'm not just saying left-wing media stuff either, even though that's kind of redundant. It's mostly media, mostly left-wing agendas. There's so-called conservative news that I see and I don't trust 100%, or I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Or at least I try to fact check it. So if people trying to paint police in a negative light, you got to get a life, really. I mean, you got to get a life, man. Get a girlfriend. Go get a job, get a hobby, do something, whatever. But some people have turned into these like professional victims around the U.S. There's plenty of victims already in our society, whether it be interaction with police or getting gunned down by gang members. There's all kinds of issues. We don't need to create them. And if we do need to create, if we are creating them, then maybe things aren't as bad out there as they appear to be coming out of the television sets and things being told constantly how awful we are. All right. Sensitive control. There, I saw this on Instagram. I don't know if you guys care about this. Instagram, I guess, did something with their settings where it's called sensitive content control. So go into your settings, and if you don't want that on, I think they just turned it on for everyone. So what exactly is sensitive content? I think it's anything that is kind of conservative slanted is being labeled as misinformation, right? You get all these warnings and hey, you posted something that's not completely true. But Instagram has done that in a way to censor people. So it's just a setting that you can turn on and off. But I did see that. I think Candace Owens posted that, and I was like, oh, well, let me go turn mine off because I'm not afraid to see sensitive content um, out there on Instagram, and because people use again social media as like their news source as well, right or left. It's like, be careful with that. But Instagram, I did see that. So anyway, let's see. I talked about the Guardians, the Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the only Guardians I know. And Val loves that movie. I'm like, whatever. I watched it for her. We'll talk about that maybe on Friday. Texas and Oklahoma, college football news. Well, it's college sports news, but let's be honest. College football makes the college athletic program go around, especially at those two universities. So two of the most, the big universities in the Big 12 at the time, two very good programs historically. I think Oklahoma has had more relevance the past, 20 years than Texas has overall. But these two teams moving to the SEC is interesting. It takes the SEC from 14 to 16, and it gets the SEC not West Coast, but a little west. When A&M joined, right? Texas A&M joined a few years ago. That's like East Texas. I believe, yeah, East. But Oklahoma and Austin, I think they're like, are they North Texas and Oklahoma? Anyway, whatever it is, it gets the SEC just a little bit more west, right? And you're never going to grab a Pac-12 team and get them in the SEC. But I think Texas and Oklahoma, they look around and they say, you know what? The Big 12 football has gone a direction of like arena football type of thing. Their games, the Big 12 games are like 50-47 and stuff like that. And it's just no defense, spread everyone out all the time, throw it, trick plays. It's just, that's what it is. Big 12 is just like no defense football. Texas and Oklahoma are kind of the outliers there. They spread it out too. They put up points, but traditionally you think of them as a more, some defensive minded teams. I think in that regard, they would fit well in the SEC. The SEC has a lot of, pro set formations. Not everyone. The defenses are definitely better in the SEC than I would say any other conference out there. Maybe the Big Ten. Big Ten is pretty strong overall defensively. But I think Oklahoma and Texas work there. The problem with going to this conference now they're not going to be the top dogs 1A, 1B, right? Like they have been in the Big 12 for these past few years or there for a long time. They might not even be in the top half as far as consistent competitiveness. When you look around the SEC, I mean, yes, Alabama's king, but Auburn's pretty good every now and then. LSU has had some great teams, multiple national championships. I think Texas and Oklahoma are better than the second half teams, the second tier of teams in the SEC, better than the bottom seven, we'll say. But in making this jump, I don't know if it's for exposure or what exactly it's for. Maybe they just see the writing on the wall with the Big 12. The Big 12, ironically, has gone from, they are now, the Big 12 has 10 teams. The Big 10 has 14 teams, I think. Maybe I could be wrong. 12. Oh, yeah, I think it's 14. So I don't know if this is going to be like a snowball effect for the big conferences. It used to be the Power Five, right? Pac-12, Big 12, SEC, ACC, and Big 10. We're starting to see is that Power Five might eventually turn into a Power Four. I think without Texas and Oklahoma, what is the Big 12? What is their identity? Who are they? Kansas basketball? Who's another decent football program? TCU, I've always kind of pulled for them because they're kind of that smaller school that was in the Mountain West, and then all of a sudden they're in the Big 12, playing against Texas and the big boys. So I've always respected their program. But one thing I could definitely see is that the Big 12 just disintegrates. Remember at one time it was it the Big 8? I think the Big 12 was the Big 8. And back when it was there was, let's see, the Texas schools, there was Rice, SMU, Texas, Arkansas. Um, that all kind of disintegrated, and some of those schools spilled into SEC or Arkansas did. It was a Missouri. I can't remember. Forgive me. I should have had this ready. But Big 12 was founded in 94. The 8 members of the former Big 8 conference joined the Southwest Conference School. That's what it was. Texas, Texas A&M, Baylor, and Texas Tech. So the Big 8 basically became the Big 12 with the adding of those 4 schools from the Southwestern Conference, which was a pretty good football conference for a lot of years. Back when SMU was good, Rice was good, of course, Texas and all those schools. So the Big 12, their footprint has just changed so much. I mean, West Virginia is in there. From the Big East, you got TCU, as I mentioned, Texas Tech. There's only 10 teams. Baylor, I could see this. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see the likes of Texas Tech and maybe Baylor drifting, if you will, to the Pac-12. You remember years ago when it was going to be the Pac-16, both Oklahoma schools and Texas and Texas Tech, I think it was, were going to go, or in talks about going to the Pac-12, going west. This was probably 10 years ago, and it never happened. But if Texas and Oklahoma leaves, you got 8 teams now in the Big 12. Do you add teams, or is it just easier for those 8 teams to go elsewhere? You could have Baylor and Texas Tech come west and be in the Pac-12. It's not that far away either. Tucson, Arizona isn't that far from, say, Texas Tech and Waco, and where Lubbock's Texas Tech and Waco, Texas is Baylor. Who does that leave behind? There's rumors that Kansas and Iowa State might be interested in going to the Big Ten. Big Ten, if the SEC goes to 16, I would imagine the Big Ten wouldn't mind having 16 as well. So I could be, you know what? I got to look that up right now. Does the Big Ten have 14 or 16? I thought maybe it was 16 because they have that the 10 looks like a 6, or instead of it's called big. It's like a G instead of a let's see. Okay, 14 members and 2 affiliate, and those are like teams that play in like Notre Dame is connected to the ACC, but not an ACC member in football. They're independent. So yeah, Big Ten has 14 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I could see. I mean, it's weird that Oklahoma, who plays Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, not being a package deal, being in the same conference. Iowa could join the Big Ten, their Big Ten in-state rivals. Iowa, that makes sense for them to go up there and be in that conference. That would make sense to me. Kansas and Kansas State not being in the same conference, that would be kind of weird. So I don't know. Maybe Kansas and Kansas State go. Maybe Kansas and Iowa State go Big Ten. Maybe some of those teams, I can't imagine them spilling into the ACC, but who knows? West Virginia, they used to play. Oh, no, they were Big East. That was Big East, yeah. Why they're in the Big 12, that doesn't make sense to me. But there's TCU. I mean, TCU could be in the Pac-12. Think about it. The Pac-12, they would have to pick up 4 teams to get 16 teams like the SEC is going to be. If Oklahoma goes. The ACC will want to pick up, I think they are 14 members as well. I should have looked all this up. But anyway, that could be the norm. It could be where there's just 4 16-team conferences. And what does that say for schools like the Mountain West? What does that say for schools that are in the Big East play football? Whatever. The Mountain West, I always, think of and support out here because, they're a smaller conference that doesn't get the love it deserves and has some pretty good teams as well. So we'll see. It's interesting. It's very interesting. We're starting to see college sports, yes, change, but college football is what makes the world go round. We're starting to see some real significant changes. And I find the timing of it interesting. This comes out right after the whole name, image, and likeness thing, where college athletes can make a significant amount of money. And with the considering of the the college football playoff changing. So all of that is interesting. It's kind of, you start to see the snow, you start to see things are moving, things are shaking. It's going, it's go time. So college football could really be changing here in the near future. And I know all sports will be affected, college baseball, college basketball, but I think even the non-football schools like a Kansas, um, Duke and these basketball schools, really, I still think football brings in a significant amount of money, and conference realignment is always going to be based off of football. Let's just be honest. It always has, it always will be. So there's a lot of changes going on right now in college football. It's really getting the blood flowing here for the upcoming college football season, because I think this year specifically, the NFL, again, I like the NFL, but the college football season for me is going to be very exciting. Seeing fans in stands again, right? There's 50,000 people show up to 60,000, maybe 70 to NFL games. 100,000 people show up to college football games. The atmosphere, the environment before the game, the on-campus stuff, it's a little different than the NFL. So I think there's some real changes, probably in a good positive direction here upcoming for college football. All of college athletics, I know, but college football. So here we are, July 26th, college football season, basically a month away, Labor Day weekend, right? It'll be a ton of games. And so I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Oklahoma, Texas, the fact that the Big 12 is kind of this, it's a JV-ish conference now. I've been critical of the Pac-12 as well, but I don't know, the Big 12, there's no identity. And without Texas or Oklahoma, there really is no identity on the football side of things. I mean, there just isn't. So I think it would be best if the Big 12 just dissolved and kind of went to the other four big power conferences. And you better act quickly here, because there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking, a lot of moving parts. And so you better act quickly, because you might be left without a chair when the music stops if you don't pay attention and handle your business. Well, guys, that will wrap up today's show, our Monday edition of the Get Home Safe podcast. I will be joined by Bill Barnes on Wednesday. We are going to be recording on Tuesday, tomorrow, with Bill Barnes here at the Eastville Studios. And as a reminder, guys, Tuesday happens to be Bill Barnes's birthday. Yes, 62 years young. I don't know if I have time to get him a cake or something, but we are going to be recording Tuesday morning. We'll do a Facebook live show. Maybe that'll go a little bit longer than normal. I don't know, but I'd like listeners out there to send some messages if they want. Send some happy birthday love to Bill Barnes, whether the email address here at the Get Home Safe podcast, gethomesafepodcast@yahoo.com, or social media page whenever we post anything, or you guys know how to get a hold of Bill too. If you want to send him a voice message, man, call in. You guys know where to do that. Look down at the episode notes. There's a link there to do that. Say hello to Bill Barnes and wish him a very, very happy birthday. So a big week here on the podcast. Bill Barnes's birthday. Me and Valerie celebrating 5 years together. You guys will hear us make fun of each other and chat on Friday. And then I might be taking a break soon. I don't know when, but maybe next week, maybe the week after. I will keep you guys updated. Be sure to follow us on social media. Like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. YouTube, we appreciate it. Comments, anything. We appreciate all the support, but you will stay updated if you follow us on various social media platforms, or if you subscribe to the podcast, as I'm sure you are all aware by now. It's another start to a week, guys. Have a great week. We will be back, tomorrow on the weekly Wednesday weigh-in preview show on Facebook, and then our weekly Wednesday weigh-in official show will be released on Wednesday. And of course, me and Valerie Byrnes, a long form conversation
on Friday. That's the schedule this week. Thanks for tuning in today. Have a great start to your week. Have a great week altogether. But guys, as always, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or rounding third base, get home safe.